First, let's start with this case. 2 years ago, I saw an original watercolor piece that I liked, and I contacted the artist and bought it. When the piece arrived, I sought a frame for it, but I hadn't been able to find a frame for that size every time I went to the store. They were all too big or too small. So I just kept the piece in an envelope on my desk. I would sometimes look at it, remember I had to find a frame for it, but would later forget again. Work. Family and life leaves little time to devote to thinking about a frame for a painting. And I don't have any framing businesses near me, so that wasn't either an option. Today my boyfriend is dusting and comes out of the office showing me the painting on a spare frame he had been using for something else. I ask him if that frame is 9 by 12. He tells me it's 8 by 10, that he had to cut a piece of the artwork to make it fit. When I look at it, the piece went from a centralized composition to having the composition indented to the left side, because he cut all whole inch on that side to save the artist's signature, which was on the extreme opposite end. For reference, imagine if you cut the Mona Lisa to the point where her head is no longer in the center. When he notices I'm perplexed, he nonchalantly tells me that the painting was in an envelope anyway, and it's better if it's out so we can see it. I get mad because this is not the first time he has taken something of mine and given it away, offered it to someone or just not asked, and did whatever he wanted with it. His mother does the same thing with his things at her house. In their family, if you're not using something, anyone can do with it as they please. I explained to him in my family, you don't do anything with other people's stuff. I have a tendency to ruminate on thoughts, so I try not to engage in negative emotions, because then I just can't let go of them, and I cycle and cycle through them, and it makes my life miserable. And I have to devote a lot of energy to get me back to normal. Every time I looked at the framed painting, I felt a new wave of sadness, anger, and frustration ripple over me. So I took the frame down, took the painting out of it, ripped it into 4 pieces, and threw it in the garbage. When my boyfriend saw it, he was shocked and visibly hurt. I get that his intentions were good, but he ruined a piece of art that was not his to begin with. Now it's awkward at home because I'm still fuming and he's sad. Am I in the wrong? Let's start judging. He was visibly sad? Him? The butcher of the art? You're not in the wrong. No, babe. He's careless to the point of negligence and doesn't know how to use a brain. Or, he did this maliciously to make you okay with his tendency to do nonsense like this. Bright red flags. I'm furious for you. You felt attached to this piece of art and kept it safe. You've been hunting for a way to display it, but only if you could find the perfect way to do so. There was no rush. The frame would speak to you when it was time. But he not only destroyed the piece of art you loved, but he ruined the experience around it. This speaks to his character, and if he doesn't understand why this was an unspeakable offense, I would dump him yesterday. I could not live a life filled with so much disregard. His intentions were not good. His thought process was, I know that my girlfriend doesn't want me to touch her stuff. My family does touch other people's stuff, though. My way is better. I have decided to do what I prefer, even though I know that my girlfriend hates it. I get to make this decision because I am superior, and I know best what is better. You're not in the wrong. Either find a way to make him respect you, or find someone else. You're not in the wrong. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. This wasn't a photo that could be cropped without detracting from it. Every part of a painting is intentional and contributes to the whole. Your boyfriend ruined a piece of art that did not belong to him. He had no right to do that, and has no right to be sad that you, its rightful owner, disposed of what he destroyed. I'd have done the same. Seeing it framed like that would have irritated the crap out of me. Next up, me and my partner both work from home. During the day, I work out of a spare room and he works out of the living room. So during work hours, these 2 spaces essentially work as 2 offices. I will refer to the room I work in as my office for simplicity's sake, but it is not the exclusive use of that room, and there is a second bathroom that can only be accessed through the spare room. I scare extremely easily. I usually keep the door open unless one of us is on a call, but very frequently my husband will walk into the room and scare me really badly. Like I'll scream and jump, and for a few seconds I genuinely cannot control my reaction. Like I feel like I almost white out for a second. Sometimes it scares me so bad. I don't handle it very well. A good scare will leave me shaking for hours after. I know I'm very weak at being scared, and that it's an unreasonable reaction, but I genuinely cannot control it. I have some trauma in my past that contributes, but I am working with a therapist. My partner takes a great deal of offense to my reactions, even though I try to explain I can't control them. Sometimes when he startles me like that, I'll say something like, "Why did you do that?" or "Why do you keep doing that?" as a reaction, and that hurts his feelings. I always apologize and try to assure him it's not personal, it's just what comes out of my mouth when I'm scared, but I can tell it really bothers him. I've asked him to just pause and knock before he comes in, but that's not really fair to make him stop and knock in his own house to enter a room that isn't exclusively for my use. The scares are bad enough that they can greatly impact my workday. I know this seems extreme, but a good scare makes me feel like my brain turns off for a while after until I get a hold of myself again. I suggested this morning, after a good scare, that maybe I should get a motion sensor door chime like they have at shops. I could install it in the hall, just before my door, and put the noisemaker on my desk so that I'll hear the noise and know he's coming. My partner thinks that that's over the top, but I want to find a solution that will work. Would I be an idiot if I just bought a chime and set it up? Edit, I'm reading everything as it comes in. This is just a lot of messages. Thank you. Sorry. I'm like a little overwhelmed. A lot of people are saying he's doing it on purpose, and I hadn't thought of that. And I'm more than entertaining that idea. I'm going to try my best to reply to comments. Thank you. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. But why is he coming through your office so frequently? If it's for the bathroom, why can't he use the other bathroom? Get a sensor. There's no good reason not to have one. And if there's no good reason for him to be walking through your workspace so often, then he's trying to undermine you. You're not in the wrong. Look, I have CPTSD, childhood trauma caused PTSD. A very active startle reflex, which is what you are describing, is one of the symptoms. You cannot help it. It is part of who you are. You need to find a way to make this work. If it's a door chime, so be it. For me, it would be locking the dang door so they have to knock. If you let them in right away, you aren't blocking their access to a shared room. Shared rooms doesn't mean everybody has 100% access all the time. You have the right to privacy, safety, and limits. Here is my example. What triggers me is sound and movement. Like when you work in a cubicle and your boss walks up behind you and starts talking. Yeah, I would jump startle in my chair and let out a scream each time. So, what did this boss do? He learned that he either waits to talk to me when I notice him, or he stands still and talks to me. No more jump scares. No more screaming. That was a boss. Not a man who loved me and was supposed to be my partner. Just some dude who could have made my life hell but cared enough to learn and change the behavior. Your partner needs to step up. Honestly, sounds like he's doing it on purpose. He likes scaring you and keeping you off balance. You can't even feel safe in your own home, and he's okay with that. He knows you have a trauma reaction, and does it anyway. He gets upset and offended if you ask him to knock. Then he turns it around and blames you for your own trauma response. He doesn't care enough about you to knock on a door or call out. You're not in the wrong to get a motion alarm or a deadbolt for the door. Nor would you. You're in the wrong if you left and found a partner that actually cares about you. Next up, I have dealt with people using CPS as a weapon against me, so I definitely don't take this lightly. Sorry for any grammatical or spelling errors. We moved out of state with my husband's parents into their 3-bedroom house. I also had my 8-year-old with me. Everything was fine until my sister-in-law moved in with her boyfriend, who is an addict, my 7F niece, and 19 nephew. They all shared one room. It was too crowded, and we moved out, so my nephew took our room. So all 3 with my niece still share a room. They had 2 pit bulls to start, and they had puppies. They kept 5, so now 7 full-sized pit bulls in a small house. They try to clean up the pee and poop, but there's always some there. If you walk into the house, you immediately get taken to the ground by 7 full-grown pit bulls, and it's scary, so me and my son refuse to go there. I worry about my niece's safety. That with her never getting her hair brushed and all her teeth rotting out of her mouth breaks my heart. But that's not the worst part. She is 7 and has never been enrolled in school, not even preschool. Is this illegal? Even if she starts next year, she will be 8 in kindergarten. Am I in the wrong if I report her to CPS? I know how it feels to have them called on me for no reason and don't know if this is a reason to do so. I love my niece and would take her in a heartbeat, but kids need their moms too. Please help. Let's start judging. This is the definition of a you need to call CPS case. Perhaps do it anonymously at first anyway. I know people on this sub say that a lot. I've never flat out said that, not until now. If that lends any weight to this, I'm tempted to say that YTA for letting this go on so long already without calling. This child is 7 years old, her teeth rotting out of her head, and has never been in school. And you're debating with yourself about whether to get her help? She should be in 2nd grade and she's never even been in preschool. That child is likely almost feral at this point. At the very least, she's going to end up in special education for years if they get her into school now. The poor thing. What is wrong with you sitting back and watching this happen? And I'm sorry, but kids need their moms sick too? No. No child needs a mother who neglects every aspect of their well-being and forces them to live in horrific, dangerous, abusive circumstances. A mom isn't a magical creature who is objectively wonderful and special and necessary just by virtue of having given birth. These children have been let down by their mother at every turn. They don't need her. They need help. You're not in the wrong if you call CPS, finally, but you're damn close to a YTA for watching this happen to innocent children for years and doing nothing about it. You're not in the wrong. To be honest, I'd consider calling the SPCA for the dogs while you're at it. It's unlikely that an already small house is a good environment for that many large dogs. The kids also not being registered for school is a crime unless they're being homeschooled. Next up, I'm pissed over this, so please tell me if this makes no sense. I, 22F, have been with my incredible girlfriend Lane for just over a year now. I introduced her to all my friends about 4 months in, and since then she's been hanging out with us, 7 including me, regularly. So I have a friend, Freya, 23F, who is kind of nosy. For a couple weeks, Lane has been out of town. Before anyone asks, she didn't want me to come. I offered, but she said she just needed to do this alone. For family issues I won't spill here, and Freya has been nagging me like crazy about it. Me and my friends all go to the same university, and we hang out pretty much every day, so I can't avoid her. First, I thought it started with honest concern. I told her what I said before, that she's out of town for some family stuff. Plain and simple. Subtly trying to get the idea across that it's none of her business. She accepted that for all of one day. She then amped it up to pressing about exactly what the family thing is. I just kept shutting her down, calmly asking her to drop it, saying that Lane doesn't want her stuff being aired out like that, which she had explicitly told me. But she just wouldn't take no for an answer. Just kept insisting that it was fine if she knew, and I would just ignore her. Last night was my last straw. We were hanging out at a local bar when Lane called me. I told my friends I'd be back in a bit and went outside to take it. Lane was pretty upset, so I told her I'd get a cab and go home so I could fully focus on her. I quickly went back into the bar to tell my friends I had to go. Mind you, I still had Lane on the line because I was only anticipating for it to take a minute. I just said something like, "Hey guys, but I gotta go, see you later," and pointed at the ongoing call. Freya, who was dead sober, decided it was a great idea to try to grab my phone from my hand, yelling questions at Lane. I backed up and held the phone to my chest, completely surprised because seriously, what the hell? I yelled at her to back off and told her my girlfriend's personal stuff was none of her business. She spluttered for a second, everyone else just staring at us bewildered before I just left. I talked to Lane on the way home and told her what happened, but said it was no big deal and refocused the conversation on what she needed to talk about. By the time I got home, I had turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and was FaceTiming Lane, so I didn't see the messages from my friends until today. Freya was pissed that I yelled at her, and 2 of our other friends, Toby, 23M, and Clay, 22M, shared the same sentiment of me embarrassing Freya by getting so angry at her when she was just worried about Lane. The rest of my friends were asking me if I was okay and siding with me. I just want to know, despite my friends and Lane telling me Freya was totally weird for it, did I overreact? I'm starting to feel a bit guilty. I never ever yell like that. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Freya tried to take your phone to ask invasive questions about something that has nothing to do with her. I would definitely keep my distance. You know the truth. Freya wasn't just worried about Lane. She is a nosy busybody who inserts herself into situations she shouldn't. I hope your GF's family issues work out in the best possible way. Good luck to you and Lane. You're not in the wrong. Sounds like you gave Freya plenty of gentle warnings that the topic was private and off-limits, and she ignored them. Some people respond well to small suggestions. Some people don't until you whack them over the head with a 2x4. You might want to take the opportunity to privately speak with Toby and Clay. Just tell them your version of events, without lashing out at Freya. If they're reasonable, they'll see the logic. Undoubtedly, she's filling their heads with exaggerations and half-truths, so you'll need to set the record straight with them. You're not in the wrong. An old, tired, queer Redditor here. There will be friends in your life who are okay with you being gay, so long as they don't have to think about you being gay. They will never treat your relationships in the same way as they treat cis-het relationships. This is what Freya is doing. She deserves to know, because you know, Lane doesn't get treated as your partner because that would mean dealing with her own internalized BS. Not respecting boundaries and not treating your bond as different to friendship are classic examples of this. She won't admit to seeing you and Lane as any different, but I guarantee she wouldn't have grabbed the phone and started quizzing Lane if it had been a straight friend talking to her boyfriend.